to another edition of The Exchange presented by Confederation Group. I'm Sam McPhail, as always, joined with Blake Doyle, my co-host. He's sporting a new shirt for those who can see it. Must have had the print and press running last night. A nice Exchange t-shirt, or golf shirt. Yeah, what's new today, Blake?
Just the limited edition athletic wear that we have. We have our own now line of clothing, and we are taking online orders using Shopify backend. So contact Sam if you'd like to get your
pivoting our business strategy during tough times, trying to find new revenue sources.
Yeah, as everybody, it's tough, and business having a tough time adapting to this as well.
Definitely. So no guests today, but we do have some interesting topics that have kind of been, I guess, sparking the minds of Twitter warriors and those alike. One big one is kind of the idea behind, we've talked about it minimally before, but the idea behind getting people back into the workforce post-COVID, especially or even during, like when they try to jumpstart the economy, because CERB is so incentivizing, or EI is incentivizing, because they can make essentially the same amount of money if you were working for minimum wage. So that's been on the minds of a lot of people, and the discussion goes both ways, but I think business people have a different opinion than those sitting at home, not doing as much. So what's your take on that, Blake?
Yeah, it's an interesting social policy issue, really. So I think business owners they've got a lot of problems. This is a very frustrating environment. In many cases, their expenses have not stopped. Certainly rental expenses, oil, electricity, there's been no rebates for those for many people. And just as the economy is starting to reopen, we've got this sort of gentle phased-in approach. The issue now becomes, how do you get your staff back recommitted and mobilized to kind of support this potential growth that we might experience in small phases. And a lot of times, at the service sector sort of jobs, there's at worst, it's more constructive to stay at home on some of these benefits. Or in some cases, even if it's at the margin, you may not want to compromise your health situation to resume your working environment when you have these other alternatives. So I think these are some of the complications that happen with rapid policy development. The government responded very quickly, which I'm glad they did. They needed to kind of stabilize the situation. But now to jumpstart the economy, that's the key. And actually this weekend in the newspaper, we talk about and compare it to jumpstarting a car battery.
I think there's
the
a lot
longer you're idle, the more difficult it is to. Yeah, I mean, what are you hearing anything, Sam? There's been some posts on Twitter.
Yeah, so I guess I'm not sure who. We're not going to single out anybody, but the idea behind there's two kind of sides to it. One is the more pro business, let's get the economy going, and the other one's more the they're not getting paid enough anyways. So that's a whole other can of worms to open, to say, well, they should be getting paid more than minimum wage. Like, this isn't a living wage, so why wouldn't they stay at home? But I think what we're seeing, I've seen a couple farmers posting just kind of funny tweets about offering this much for a job, and then people would reply and say, well, I'll do it for cash. You can do it for cash, because they want to get their either EI or the CERB and also work on the side for cash. But that's not beneficial to anybody. The whole idea is to be on payroll and to pay the payroll taxes so the government can keep functioning. So I think that's kind of what I've seen, is that people are getting very comfortable with CERB. And I get all the power to them. I think the idea of getting $2,000 a month is great, but when you actually factor in how much taxes you should be taking off that, it's not as much as it would be when you go, let's say, to work 40 hours a week. So the gross number, it sounds very incentivizing, but come tax time, it'll be maybe not so incentivizing.
There's some constituents, like, in your demographic, Sam, so students who are working in service center jobs, a lot of those are restaurant based, maybe low pay, but you also get tips and gratuities with that. Now, in this new environment, the gratuities are going to be as, relative to the pace of business, which is going to be slower. So you start to weigh, the low wage plus diminished tips, and it may make sense to, continue this CERB benefit. And then that's going to really be a challenge for businesses, because we're at the to read off labor. Business will not do this in any event, and then have a restriction on labor is just going to compound the challenges, I think.
I would agree. And the idea of getting people back into the workforce when they are only making, I guess it'd be different for servers, probably due to the fact there's incentive tips, but there won't be as many tips, obviously, with less tourists on PEI. But also, why would someone go work, let's say, at a retailer for minimum wage when they could stay at home and do nothing and get paid the same or more? So I guess
And
what I would
we
be
see
asking
the
you is, would you have like, what do you suggest that employers do to bring people back into the workforce?
yeah, I think business employers are challenged with the environment. They're challenged by some government policies which were offered in the best of intentions. Maybe there's a way for people to transition off CERB, maybe extend some of these benefits, including some of the rental rebates that have been offered, maybe some of the incentives to get employees back on. So maybe there's this transition period where people can reacquaint themselves with the labor market while not losing all of their, or having their CERB benefits dovetail down. So I don't think there's a good solution, but you've got to get people back to the economy, and the economy has enough trouble as it is to restart. You don't need artificial barriers kind of preventing that restart. In the U.S. today, they just announced the jobless claims, which was 3.8 million. So there's 30 million people in the U.S. that have filed claims for unemployment insurance in the last 6 weeks. The UN suggests that as much as half the global workforce is going to be affected by this COVID situation. And we've seen similar sort of unemployment numbers here on PEI and domestically. So, you need to get people back engaged. If you don't, then you don't have the incentive to spend money and to jumpstart this economy. So there's a lot of complications, and the benefits, although great at their inception, now we have to stimulate the demand side and ensure that people are encouraged to stimulate the economy. It's going to be the consumer that's going to start this thing back up.
Yeah, and like I've noticed, not you leave the house once or twice a week to get gas or groceries or whatever, but you're spending overall a lot less money on food and like going to the movies or going to the bar or doing whatever. There's a lot more money in my pocket at the end of the week, or every 2 weeks when let's say we get paid, because of the lack of spending you've done, or lack of consuming you've done at different establishments across PEI and Charlottetown.
Yeah, missed you a bit there. There's some latency probably on both ends. But yeah, these are big challenges that government has to work in tandem with business, and it can't be one body to kind of drive this. It's got to be the health consideration paired with the business motivation, paired with the government start the economy. And everybody's intention, I think. So have you had a look at this phased-in approach? Any thoughts on how government, and particularly the public chief health officer, is going to re-establish economic activity?
I like overall it's welcoming news. So phase 1 starts tomorrow on the 1st of May, and then I think phase 2 is the 22nd, and then phase 3, which is when it kind of actually opens up to more tourism per se, like campgrounds or amusement parks, whatever the case may be. That's on June 12th, I believe. Where they allow like larger, not huge gatherings, but bigger gatherings. So phase 1 is good. I love the idea of it. They might not, obviously it's hard to be prepared due to how fast this is going and evolving. But one thing I noticed is that people think, oh, May 1st, everything's open. So I think tomorrow we're going to see droves of people walking about doing whatever they feel they want to do, even though it's only limited things. You're less than 5 people in a house, or less than 5 people from different houses. And it's the real only business sense that opened is golf courses is the big one, and recreational fishing too is open. So obviously you can social distance a little bit in those. There's kind of a fine line, especially from my background in golf, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I see it as a good thing for mental health and for business practice, but I don't see it as a good thing for flattening the curve, I guess, because there is going to be people abusing that. And the idea behind having one person in a golf cart, let's say, that's great in theory until you get to the green when people are a foot away tapping in a putt or doing whatever. So I think the government is in the process of putting out a plan for specifically golf courses to say, here's exactly what you have to do, and we'll follow it as close as possible. Like obviously all these practices are in place, but some of them just aren't logical, I guess. Like for example, at the hospital, you're going to be in closer than 2 feet with a nurse or whatever. So you have to kind of take it in stride that you're doing your best you can to obey the rules of social distancing, but it's not always totally practical. Do I have you there? You can hear me?
I'm
okay?
back.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're having a
Yeah.
bit of latency issues, but we're doing okay. Yeah, so I think overall golf courses opening is a good thing. It'll put a lot of stress on the golf course operators and owners, but I think we'll see the benefit of it, that people can kind of get out and see a little light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of investment. These operators, it's a lot of investment to start up your business. It's the same with restaurants and retail. You know, there's big operational investments, and hope activity viable to open. You know, it's I think, yeah, I'm concerned for how many businesses are going to get through this seasonal period, and I'm so try to navigate this late fall winter period. So tough time for businesses.
Very tough time. I think we'll just see how the phases get rolled out and how well they work. So hopefully all goes well there. Another topic that kind of maybe got skimmed over in news would be the idea around what are the parents with small children doing at home because there's no daycares open, but they're required to work from home. I think there was announcements for in terms of government, and that phase two is of this the government's approach is going to allow daycares to open, but for the time being, it's still the idea behind, well, what did they do the past 6 weeks? How are they going to work the 35 hours a week if they have to look after a 2-year-old at home or a couple 2-year-olds? So I think not that there was a perfect solution for that, but I think that was kind of one segment of the population that was overlooked is parents with small children.
And then, you know, I saw, if I've got this correct, I think Quebec are opening up elementary schools. A portion of that decision might be to support childcare so that people can get back into the labor market. And, you know, people are trying to adapt to this situation. People do need childcare if they're going to functionally adapt back into the productive work environment. But kids are vectors, and by vectors, that's somebody who kind of may not feel the effects of COVID, but if it's in the environment, they're going to catch it and they're going to transmit it, and it's going to move around through those people. I think we've been very fortunate that we have contained this quite well. It's not gone away, and I think reopening the economy, which is important, is not a matter of flattening the curve, but now starting to manage the curve. And I think we will see, as you suggested, there'll be increased incidence again, unfortunately, because of opening things up. And I think they're going to turn the spigot off and try to tighten things back down. So I sort of put this economic journey is going to be a bumpy ride. We're going to come up, expand, we're going to come back. It's really tough for businesses to navigate that. If the underlying focus is health, then that's what we're going to endure for the next, I don't know, 8 quarters.
Yeah, and then like they always use the word unprecedented, but that's what it means. It's never happened before. We don't know what's going to happen. We can't guess the trends of the next 6 months or whatever because we don't. It's never happened. We can't base it on historical data. I think everyone's kind of being a little more optimistic now, maybe than they were 6 weeks ago. That we're all in this together, but all in this together doesn't pay the bills when there's no tourism dollars or businesses just can't open.
Yeah, and that's the big policy problem that not only the current government, but governments for several successive elections are going to have to deal with. There's going to be big financial sort of ramifications to surviving this, which we have to do, and government are doing the right things to step in. But we got to get off that as fast as we can, and recovering the economy is part of that solution.
Exactly.
So May 1st, I'm just going to say things are going to open up. You couldn't have contained people much longer.
No.
As soon as the weather breaks, people are going to be released. So they're lucky the weather kind of stayed cool, and they you know, whether it was formally open or not, I think the teenagers are going to be loose in the wild anyway. Anything going to change for you now with the, you know, are you going to get in the golf course immediately? What are your...
I think actually I have a tee time tomorrow afternoon, but like 4 or 5 o'clock, I think, just for 9 holes maybe. But I don't know. It'll change a little bit of stuff, but I think, like you said, it'll be the younger demographic that have just been, are the social types that are just cooped up all the last 6 weeks, and they're just driving them nuts not to see their friends. Yes, we have virtual communication, Snapchat, Instagram, whatever the case may be, but it's not the same as, I guess, it's not the same to make fun of your friends over the phone as it is in person.
No, I've got a young guy, actually two kids in grade 6. So they're going to miss their graduation. But I feel really bad for the post-secondary guys like yourself and girls. May 10th would have been convocation weekend. I really feel this is valedictorian and now won't have the opportunity to do that. How are people, and you're graduating from UPEI I guess technically. And
In a week. It would have been a week from today. And it's
yeah,
kind of a double whammy for me because my birthday is May 5th. So two monumentous occasions in the same week next week. So anyway, I'll do my best. Maybe you can send me whatever gift you got me from afar. But
right. It'll
um,
be Lone Oak delivery, maybe.
there you go. Actually, I have more to come on my valedictorian address, so don't worry. There will be an online
Oh,
version, so
great.
we'll link that in with other people. But it's I don't really like. At the start, I was kind of bummed out, but now I'm like, I'd rather people be safe and not have to risk it. Or if they kept saying, "Oh, we might have it," and then a week before they cancel it, I'm glad they canceled it early on and said, "We're not doing this. It's unsafe." And it's obviously a tough decision for the faculty and the president of the university because I don't know what the number of graduating students are, but there's quite a couple hundred or even more.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
thousands. Yeah.
that probably 1,000. It's just on PEI alone that are thinking, oh well, this sucks. You have to take in consideration all of them. Think of the international students. We have a large, probably close to a quarter of our students are international students that even if you headed in this fall, they're not going to come back from
Right.
Vietnam or China or India just to do that. Obviously, they might stay in Canada, but they're not going to travel back to PEI in the fall in a cold November day for a graduation ceremony.
Well, it's a nice culmination of the effort you put in for many years, in this case, 4 years, to complete your degree. So if all you get is a congratulations, there you go. Here's your congratulations on your graduation. So
thank you. I'll use my certificate and I'll put it in the office whenever we get back to that, or my
that's,
whatever you call it,
yes. Well, I hope
piece of paper.
hope we get back soon. I think we've adapted well. Many companies have, but we do need to reconnect, and we need to see the economy rebound just to provide viable environment for people. So it'd be interesting. I'm really kind of curious how this rollout works and how operational costs like labor, how that adapts to this circumstance, how businesses can maybe not thrive but survive, which is I think is the key to try to get through this period. It's going to be very, very difficult. But I'm happy to see that we're transitioning, and some people might choose not to open, but at least those that want to attempt it have that option.
Yeah, and they might, through trial and error, they might see, oh, it wasn't worth it, let's close again. I know one place that will be bumping on May 22nd is barbershops. That's when you're allowed to open up and get your hair cut. So I will be probably first in line. It's been getting pretty shaggy, but I'll manage myself there.
Yeah, well, I guess I could set up my own barber shop maybe, and we could just do that at the side of the road. We're fortunate that we had some clippers, so we've stayed trimmed a bit.
That's good. I wouldn't want your hair getting in your eyes.
No, it's staying out. Rugby's going to start soon. I'm waiting for the chief public health officer to pick that date, and we're hoping it's July. So we're good.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things people are looking forward to. Obviously, with like country concerts getting canceled or whatever the case may be, there's other things to look forward to, whether it's camping trips or, like we mentioned before on the show, staycations. Like, oh, we're going to Mill River for the weekend for a golf trip. We're going to, I don't know, Point Prim for supper tonight. Just little things that you're able to do that you might not have done because you can't go to Montreal or you can't go to down south or wherever the case may be. So things to look forward to for sure.
Yeah. Well, look forward to the weekend, May 1st, and start of some relaxed socialization. Still pretty limited, but it's a good first step. And hopefully the curve doesn't change. I think the healthcare providers have been, on standby waiting for calamities to occur. They haven't. We've been really lucky. We hope they don't. And, if they keep the borders reasonably tight and people are sensitive to not exposing others if they feel they're experiencing symptoms, and you can't escape this. So, I mean, one of the quotes I use in The Guardian is, we don't want the virus to kind of drive us. We want to kind of drive our adaptation to the virus. And I think we're in a good position to do that.
I'll be driving golf balls tomorrow. So it's full circle.
Yeah. Well,
I think that's a good place to probably end for today. We don't want too much of our voices ruining people's airways, but yeah, we'll be back hopefully early next week with another episode. We have a good guest lined up for Monday. Actually, people know him pretty well, I would say, or maybe even two. Then it might be a combo pack. We're not sure yet, but we have one for sure. Anyways, this is
good.
A little bit of latency issue there. Did you try connecting again, Blake?
Yeah, I'm okay. I can hear you.
Perfect.
I may have gone for a minute, but yeah, we've got
all good.
A great guest the first of the week that can talk about, has political experience Maybe there, Sam, if you're still, am I
Yeah,
breaking
you're
up a
good.
fair
Yeah.
bit?
No, but I think what we said, he has political experience. Actually, both of them do, technically, if we can get both of them on at the same time, for one certain party, but we won't discuss what party that is. But they leadership roles, no matter where they've gone
Yeah.
throughout their careers. So a lot of experience, a lot of insights coming on Monday's edition of the show. So this has been another episode of The Exchange presented by Confederation Group. I'm Sam McPhail, Blake Doyle, signing off, showing the merch. If you want a t-shirt, let us know. We'll get you one. But yeah, this has been another episode. We will see you early next week. Have a good one.